Okay. We are live. Welcome, everybody, to another episode. Oh, hold up. I got to hit the intro. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Catholic Libertarian Podcast. I'm doing an episode on Rand today. For that, I got Kevin, how do you say the last name? I never asked.
Bruns.
Kevin Bruns, who is tell people who you are. Give a little self intro.
Sounded like you were going to say he's no good then. Was that a Freudian slip?
Maybe. Yeah. And we got Kevin Bruns. We got Gold Guy, who we're all gonna talk about. Everyone's favorite author that they love to hate, Ayn Rand. Talk about Rand. Talk about Leonard Peikoff. Talk about objectivism. So let's kind of just do. Let's start with the farthest on the left, the farthest on the right. Gold Guy, what's your Rand story? How did you first hear about Rand?
It's funny. I think I mentioned it the first time I was on, because I found Ayn Rand through Watchmen, written by Alan Moore, who's quite left wing, and the main driver of the plot in Watchmen is Rorschach, who is written to be uncompromising, utterly, morally, and insane. And I found him very interesting, so I decided to research, the origin of the character, and found out that he was based off of another comic character called The Question, who was... Sorry, I gotta put my phone on.
No, that was me. I just tagged you in the live post.
Oh.
All good. Right. There we go.
Right, he was based on The Question, who was originally written by Steve Ditko as an objectivist superhero.
Yep.
Not only to be an exciting comic character, but to promote objectivism.
Very cool character. Everyone hasn't read him. I mean, some of the cool. Like, if you ever watched the cartoon show Justice League Unlimited, he has an overwalking plot on a kids' cartoon about uncovering government secrets, and it is a very heavy plot where they cover like tyranny, treason, secret government programs. Like, it's a very mature plot for. And at one point he decides, you know what? If Justice League isn't going to do it, I'm going to do it, and tries to start killing people. Like, it's a very mature plot for a kid's show. So go check that out, everybody.
All
right. So Kevin, about you. What's your Rand story? How did you find out about Miss Rand and her great books?
Basically, I've been called selfish, and then being told, "Oh, you're just like that Ayn Rand," and I'm like, "Who?" So did a Google search. Strangely, I came up with Jurgen Brock first. Then his videos led me to Peikoff, and then Peikoff to Rand. So
you went backwards. You went backwards through the.
Yeah. I mean, you're not talking weeks and weeks. It's like a few minutes of Googling, and then 6 years later, here we are.
Nice. What was the first Rand book you guys read? Like, how was he? What's the first?
Atlas Shrugged.
Atlas Shrugged. What about you, Kevin? What was the first Rand book you picked up?
Atlas Shrugged.
You both were Atlas Shrugged first. Yeah. That is, I have been told that's a crime. Yeah. Like, I've been told that's a very bad deal.
I think Atlas Shrugged is the entry point for most people. That's probably her most prolific novel. The best critically received, I think, is The Fountainhead.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm working my way through both of them, and I'm enjoying The Fountainhead a little bit more. I found it much more of a personal story, and I relate a lot more to the character than I do in Atlas Shrugged. But what little I know about Atlas Shrugged, I haven't got too far into it because it's gigantic. I mean, it's a big book. It's I'm much more involved. I know a lot more about Ayn Rand's philosophical work than I know about Rand's fictional stories. I think my first Rand book I really read was Ansem. Because I told you, I was sort of saw it was a small one. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. Took me a little bit to kind of get caught on to the lingo, because when he start reading it, it's very like, okay, it's not very natural to how you read things, but it plays into the story and it makes sense, so you get by it, and it's a good story. How I found out about Rand was Michael Malice. Michael Malice was talking about Rand on one of the podcasts he did. And I'm like, well, who is this lady? And I watched one of her videos with, I think it was Donahue. And I'm like, oh, this lady, she's awesome. She's got some stuff. And then I just started reading anything I could find from her. And I found your own work. And I just started watching his show and Leonard Peikoff. And it's like, okay, these guys, objectivism. This is a philosophy. Let's get into it. Because I'm really into like philosophical schools and stuff. So finding out how much people cannot stand Rand and her philosophy is annoying to me, because I really don't get. I don't get the hate for. I get the. A lot of people who read the Fountainhead and her books kind of become very individualistic, and that's not a problem, but that's viewed negatively by the culture, and so a lot of people just rebel against that negative feeling when people are dicks to them, so they become dicks in return, and so you get a lot of people who are not fun to be around sometimes. And I don't blame them. It's not their fault. It's not Rand's fault. It's not their fault. They're just rebelling to people always being dicks. But her philosophy is fantastic. I mean, the axioms, the epistemology, the metaphysics. I mean, I have some issues with some of it all because I am Catholic. I do believe in God. And so I do have some like problems with it. But when it comes to the moral realm, I think she gets everything spot on and is really good. And I don't really see any contradiction. Because when you get to the parts about love and loving yourself, I don't see any contradiction to that in my Catholic view. So, politically, not on board. I mean, I'm anarchist, like the gold guy, so I'm not on board with anti-anarchist stuff. But I think everything else he did was pretty accurate. So let's get into it. Let's talk about our epistemology. Because I know Gold Guy just finished. You finished it, or did you work your way through some of it?
Just finished it a couple of days ago.
What did you think? What was your take on it?
I like it. I continue to be surprised by just how well Rand could get across her thinking, to the point that you read about 20 pages in a row. You finish the section, look over it quickly, and think, yeah, I cannot argue with that. That is absolutely spot on. Actually, I finally managed to break out of a rut of just working and sleeping and working and sleeping, and found the time to actually read Introduction to Objectivist Epistemology, because I've actually had the book for about a couple of years and never managed to get past 20 pages. And now I want to read through all of the extra philosophical material in the second edition and try to work through some of the other central books by Rand and Peikoff. Mostly because Kevin and I have repeatedly butted heads on on whether there is a proper role for government.
Well, let's not get too deep into a debate here, because I don't want to turn to a moderator. And I don't want to be moderator. I don't want to be two guys ganging up on one guy. So, Kevin, what about you for the philosophical works of Ayn Rand? Like, which ones have you enjoyed more? Were you more of the epistemology, virtuous selfishness? Like, which ones did you enjoy
Virtuous
more?
Selfishness.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Definitely 100% her best book.
That's I mean, I can't. It's hard to argue because it's a pretty good book.
Yeah. The epistemology book, I am on my second reading and I'm probably a quarter of the way through, and I'm still going, So I imagine there'll be a lot more of those moments as I finish it. But I actually don't think you can read any of her books once and think you understand or know what she actually means. Because when I first read Atlas Shrugged, it took me 4 goes because I just couldn't get past the first chapter. It's like, this is rubbish. What's going on here? I just couldn't get through it. And then all of a sudden, on the 5th go, it was like, oh, I'm in chapter 2. And so it built and it built. And then once you get started in it, it was just the only thing I've reread more than once in there so far, because I've only read the whole book once, is the speech.
Mm.
And that's literally a book on its own.
Yeah.
So
50 pages.
I've read that 3 times now. But everything needs reading more than once. Definitely.
Oh yeah. I definitely agree with that. I think there's very few books you read one time and you're done with it. Maybe like a Sean Hannity book if you ever want to torture yourself. But most books, especially someone like Rand, who is a philosopher, and there's so many layers to it. Whether it's like she's arguing for political stuff like capitalism and the market, whether she's arguing for like moral philosophy, about your selflessness, or she's arguing about talking about epistemology, deeper philosophical themes. Like there's so many layers to her books. It is just always impressive, always an impressive read. For me, I think I'm with Kevin, virtue selflessness. Like you hear that, and like a lot of people hear that, and they kind of go, "What do you mean? Selflessness is one of the cardinal sins."
Yeah.
It's a little. If you talk to some Protestant types, it's a little demon out there, and I think it's a Plato demon out there, and some form out there literally existing, screwing everybody over. But no, like selflessness in its proper context, understood as being I matter. I am the source of my own my happiness is dependent on my own thoughts. That's very important, Like I absolutely hate the idea that your happiness is going to be dependent on others. Your happiness will not be contingent on other people, because then that's just a terrible way to live. Your happiness needs to be dependent, and that's from I got from the virtue selflessness of Ayn Rand, and it's just she's so misunderstood. It's frustrating, You read these like it's all not, but PragerU, the conservative think tank people, they did a episode on Ayn Rand, and the TradCon conservative people lost their shit. I mean, they were so mad. Like, how dare you bring up an atheist? Like, how dare you bring up someone who believes in the individual? And they were just rejecting individualism, free-market capitalism, and idea of actually caring about yourself instead of other people. Like, they were rejecting all of that. You read their arguments, you're like, you guys are dumb. You guys are only, one, not getting it. One, I don't want you to get it. I don't want you to be a part of this group. I want you. They were so stupid and mean. I wanted their happiness to be dependent on other people, so they don't be happy. Because these people aren't worth it. They don't have souls.
They don't want to understand.
Exactly.
A lot of the more common criticisms of Ayn Rand that I've seen are by people who don't want to understand what she actually believed. They just find cheap little avenues to justify their preconceptions. Because actually, I was on a podcast not too long ago where we were talking about covenant communities, and I brought up Ayn Rand, and they immediately said, "But wait, wasn't she opposed to charity?" And I just fucking face palmed right there. No.
Yeah.
Like I said, a lot of people who hate her don't want to understand.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm not even halfway to fully understanding. But
join the club.
Yeah. But I'm working on it.
No, Kevin, what about you? You're probably more involved in actually teaching Ayn Rand than either of us, because of your political platform and trying to use it to teach people about Rand. What's your kind of experience with people who don't understand her and don't want to understand her, and how receptive people are to these ideas? How much you have to go, no, selflessness doesn't mean what you think it means. How often do you have to do that kind of thing? All the time?
All the time. I mean, it was being called selfish that actually got me into objectivism in the first place, as I said earlier. Wanting to understand why people thought being selfish was wrong, because I'd always practiced it as, well, I'm just doing what's good for me. And I wasn't hurting anybody else in the process. And I think the big misconception is that selfishness is tied with at somebody else's expense. And that's why people in the culture don't like the word, because automatically they've bought into the package deal that, well, if it's good for you, it must be bad for somebody else. And that is a package deal, because you can't have something that is bad and good. So, and I think that's through academia, through philosophy over the time of different people mixing one's own good at the detriment of another and putting them in the same bag, as it were, and saying, like, this is what's called selfishness, and people just saying, okay, without actually thinking, well, what does it mean in reality? Because Ayn Rand is always, all your concepts must come or must adhere to reality. So in reality, if I'm doing what's rationally good for me by being selfish, how does that in reality affect somebody else? And the general consensus is, well, my happiness must be somebody else's sadness. And she breaks that down and said, no, that's just a package deal you've been sold. What it actually means is this. And that's why she's so adamant on reclaiming the word selfishness, because a lot of people say, why are you bothering reclaiming the word? Everybody hates it. Because the word means something in reality. And objectivism is based on reality.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But politically, I don't think anyone is anywhere near ready for anything political regarding objectivism.
No, not at all.
Oh, yeah.
One thing I love about Rand is that I didn't want to accept this, but I've learned to accept it. You have to live in reality, and you can't negotiate with those who don't live in reality. It's very hard to find a starting point if you do not exist in the realm of actual reality. Like, I got into a political debate with a friend of mine one time, and he said, the problem with politics is all the money in politics. We just got to get the money out of politics. And it's like, dude, you're not living in reality. Like, I want to get salt out of the ocean. Like, these aren't things that are possible. So why bother discussing solutions for impossibilities? Let's deal in reality here. And it's just like, it's very frustrating and very difficult to deal with these kind of types. You know, like, no, like A equals A. Reality is how we can perceive it. Let's deal with reality as it is and not try to make some convoluted. Well, how do we know what the table is in front of us if we can't actually perceive it? Like, you might not exist when I blink my eyes. It's like, I do, and I'm here. So let's not deal with some made-up mumbo-jumbo nonsense that you don't want to think about. Let's deal with reality and go from there. And these people don't want to do that, and it's ridiculous.
That's pretty much every time that I try to have some kind of philosophical conversation with my older sister. I think the last time I remember was, I don't remember what prompted it. Off the cuff I said, perception does not affect reality. And she said, yes, it does. What? I decided not to probe that further because I just don't know how you can recover from that starting point.
Yeah. That's what's great about Rand is that it's something Michael Malice said that I really liked about Rand, and it was before you read Rand and you think you have to negotiate with people. When they say things to you like, hey, you're going to live in the pod, you're going to go stay locked down, you're going to go not go to work, and you're going to do everything we say, wear a mask. And before you'd be like, okay, well, no, let me negotiate and tell you why I don't feel like doing that. And now you're going to say, I'm not going to do it. Go away. Like, I like that energy that Rand gives. Like, he puts into language the ideas you already have about not wanting to engage with these people, and gives you a philosophical reason for like, hey, I know it's not worth it. These people, I don't need to engage. I mean, Kevin's probably the only guy who engages here because he actually wanted to do his minds. I don't know why. I mean, I wouldn't. I don't care about these people. Kevin, why do you care about these people who are dumb?
I don't care about them. I care about me. I care about me. And I care about my rights and my life. And if I want that, I have to educate other people and encourage them to think that the way I do so that I can have what I want. So as a byproduct of me getting what I want, they'll get what they need. They may not know that at the moment.
What they need is to leave you alone. That's what they need.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the concept of the second handle, because that was something that Rand showed me that I fell in love with. I'm terrible with names, but it's Keating, I think. He's the guy who lives his life. Is it Keating? No. Hold on. I have a page marked. You guys go and talk about some Ayn Rand stuff. I want to find out real quick because it's gonna bug me if I don't get the name right.
Peter Keating.
Yeah. Isn't that the Fountainhead?
Yeah. No. This is for a new intellectual, but it's there's an expert from the Fountainhead. If I can find it, I thought I had a page marked. It's one of my favorite things too.
Page marker of $100 bill.
The way Rand wanted. Here he goes. The nature of second hander.
No,
Yeah,
it
it's
should be-
Peter Keating. Okay.
Hmm.
Peter Keating is a guy I felt sorry for in the beginning of the book because I know those mom types. His mom is. I know moms like that.
Hmm.
You know that whenever he wants to go do what he wants to do, the mom's like, I will respect whatever decision you make, honey. Well, I want to, but then it'll be the same if this happened. Like I've been at homeschool meetings because homeschooled, and I see kids say things like, I want to go do a co-op on art or something, and the mom's like, well, you could, but what if you fall behind on math? And they butcher what the kid wants to do in favor of what they think the kids should be doing. And I feel so bad for the kids, and I absolutely detest those kind of moms. It's secondhand. These people are so sad. It's sad to see. You know, people don't live up to their own ideals of what they want to be. And I see people now my age who are doing that. And I'm like, I worry what you're going to be like in 30 years.
Bitter. Probably.
More likely dead, so. In my case.
You're fine then. I mean, hell, at this rate, I probably won't make it in the next 30 years. Die in a blaze of glory while the one world government enforcement agents burst into my homestead.
I know some legit homesteaders. I got some friends of mine in Florida who are like legit hiding out in the woods and homesteading. And they're awesome. I love him. He's a great dude. And he is holed up with guns, and I am very worried about him because he says some he sings he's on the little island he can hide out. And I'm like, I'm sure you can hide if you didn't tweet on Twitter these inflammatory things. You can't hide and then wave a banner. You have to pick one.
I actually want to do the whole homestead thing, find somewhere isolated or a small community of like-minded people and just fuck off away from collectivist society, authoritarian government.
I'm not there yet.
Basically
I'm not
everywhere these days.
Maybe it's gonna have in Florida, but I still have hope that my local state level stuff's not gonna be terrible because they haven't been terrible yet, and so I've sort of held up that the Ron DeSantis, much as I love him, I know he's gonna run for president, and I'm so mad about that. Like I need him here doing what he does best. I don't need him leaving to go lose an election.
Actually, I'd love to see a DeSantis Newsom race.
It'd be fun.
Hilarious.
Be fun, but the moment he leaves, there's this person here called Nikki Fried. She's a little witch. I mean, she looks like a witch. She cackles like Hillary. She's the worst, and she's running for governor. And the moment no one's running against him right now because no one's opposed to DeSantis. But the moment he leaves, she's already polling high. She'll take over. It's gonna be terrible. She's already said we're gonna go back into lockdowns in Florida. I'm like, what? Don't lock down my city. It's
that actually in particular really it just baffles me how people in places that have already recovered from coronavirus, that are already doing well, just want to fucking lock down again, which just goes to show it's not about science. It's either about a cynical ploy for control, or they've basically started to worship the whole cycle like a religion of fear of coronavirus, wanting restrictions and wanting to feel safe by being a pussy. Basically, it's like people who wear masks in the street, and I constantly complain about them, saying, "What are they doing
outside?"
And, my mom actually said one point, yeah, I get you disagree, but you know it's their choice, right? Yes, I know it's their choice. It's also
I can still complain about it.
Yeah, they have made that choice. They have now exposed themselves to my ridicule, and I don't know if they'll ever recover from the loss of my esteem.
They'll stay devastated.
Let's talk about Rand and capitalism. He was a big fan of Mises. Ludwig von Mises in the Austrian economics. I'm actually going through. As I was reading Rand's epistemology, I was reading Mises' epistemological problems of economics, and reason I love both Mises and Rand is they hated Milton Friedman. Like there's that story, I'm sure everyone knows it, where Mises like Friedman talked about having proper rent control or something, and Rand wrote a letter in all caps, this yelling at him, and then when Friedman brought up to Mises like, you're just a bunch of fucking socialists, and then walked out of the room. Like these people both did not like Friedman, and like me, I don't like Friedman either. So we have a sad hatred of that dude.
I used to like Friedman actually because my whole I don't want to call it a journey. That sounds
that sounds very Quins.
We need a TV show for that.
My whole process through the liberty movement, just the whole broad thing, started when I read Atlas Shrugged. So then I decided to go deeper into it, but I went the wrong way. I looked at Friedman, I looked at Beltway libertarians, kind of went astray for a while, and then when lockdowns first hit, I went right back into the more hardline stances, properly went through some theory, and will now hopefully get the ball rolling on reading Rand's nonfiction and actually finishing The Fountainhead.
Do any of you identify with the objectivist label? Like any of you, when I ask you about your philosophical views, say I'm an objectivist?
I would assume only me.
Kevin, yeah. I have no problem with objectivism. I'm not an objectivist, but I adopt a lot of the objectivists.
Yeah.
Like A equals A as the axioms. I think those are. I like reality. I do.
Yeah,
I like reality, and I like people who can just say, like, I was thinking about this today. It's like somehow Rand has like done both, where like the smarmy philosophical like college professor types who are like, well, how do we know? Put on a pipe, like, how do we know a chair is actually a chair? Like, how do we know reality is in front of us? And Rand's like, it's there. And then at the same time, it's like the deep philosophical argument. It's like that's what one reason I think some people hate Rand is like they have these deep, like they want to sound smart, so they're gonna question reality and put all these really crazy sayings. And Rand's just like, I slapped the desk. The desk is here. Like I can prove it.
Had a lecture in university about the whole topic was why you can't trust your senses. I could not be arsed that day, so I just watched YouTube videos the whole time.
I would have trust your senses. Why take part?
Yeah,
I know.
What are you taking part in?
it really pisses me off how people go on these really long, smarmy, pseudo-philosophical tangents. You can't trust your senses. Reality isn't actually real. And I want to say, if you can't trust your senses, why the fuck are you trusting that I can hear what you're saying and get what you mean?
It's that the lecture Leonard Peacock gave, and it's the first one, and it's the second one, the series of lectures he did on the Ayn Rand Institute. You can go find on YouTube. And he disproves, and he has in 3 questions, I would disprove all the attacks on it, and then they'll prove it for me. And it's like one of them is like, no one disagrees on anything. It's like, what do you mean? People disagree on all sorts of stuff. And that's how you prove people exist. Like he just in 3 sentences, very smugly does it, and you're like, that is the kind of like at the same time, it's an advanced philosophical ideal, and it's the same thing a drunk in a bar would say on a Friday night to a philosopher. Mm-hmm. Like they, is a meme. It's the midwit meme. It's it's like a IQ 12, IQ of 180, and then 115 in the middle, and it's like table is real. Well, how do we know if anything's real? Ayn Rand, table is real. Like, there's something about the midwits, who the 115 people who think they could sound smarter by disproving reality when they can't, and the drunk in the bar on Friday night and Ayn Rand both figure out the same thing. Like, that's my epistemology. If can the dumb guy and the smart person reach the same conclusion, then there's probably a reason to be that's true.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't matter how intelligent someone is, as long as they see reality for what it is, and in their beliefs there's no contradiction, then they're on the right track. Because I remember when reading Atlas Shrugged was a really moving experience for me, because there were several points in it where I said, where I stopped and said, "Wait a minute, I was actually right," because it felt like like bringing a lot of things that I already believed and always believed into concrete philosophical concepts. And after having been just beaten down for years by smug superior adults, someone
Cunts.
actually,
I'm gonna say it, cunts. That's the best word to describe some of these people.
someone actually said, "No, you were right." It's like my parents. I love my parents, but sometimes we have arguments like they say, you can't just not compromise. You can't just always be completely hardline on morality. And my response is, yeah, I can.
I can and I will.
Yeah. I think somebody specifically, Rand, said that I can't remember the exact wording, so I'll paraphrase that. It was during the John Galt speech about children who first begin to perceive reality and are then confronted with artificial contradictions. And then everything starts to get fucked up from there. Because I remember as a child, a lot of things seemed black and white, like there's good, there's evil, there's, they don't mix. And then adults start telling me, no, there's gray areas. Sometimes you have to do something that's wrong. And I was like, what? And then I was beaten down into accepting this for a while, and then I read Atlas Shrugged, and I thought, no, I was actually right.
Yes, I had to say I have very similar experiences. From a young age, I was always kind of like a psychological egotist. People are motivated by selfish reasons. And I remember I said to my parents when I was like 14, like, everyone does everything for selfish reasons. Even the pastor on stage wants a bigger house in heaven. And they did not like that at all. They did not like that at all. And we argued about it. And I was a dumb kid. I couldn't articulate why I thought that. I just kind of noticed it. And that's what Rand does. That's so great. It's like, saw reality for what it was, and could put into terms and language and the characters, most importantly. Like, he put your feelings about how you perceive reality, if everyone told you was wrong, into characters you can relate to. And that's why I think for fictional writing that's why he was so great. Is he didn't just write some treatise about things, like he did, and they were great, but he also put in the characters, the stories, and that he can explain to it. Like, he had an unreleased story about there was this kid that broke his legs, and they could give him some crutches so he could walk normally. And the dad was like, well, why doesn't he get special treatment or something? And we're like, that's just made up and crazy. But now you actually see parents not giving their kids the surgery to fix their hearing when they're kids because they don't want to give them special treatment. It's like, what is this? These people are monsters. And I'm tired of having to act like they're responsible. And I'm just the idealistic kid. Don't put your failures on me. It's infuriating. Kevin, what about you? What about you, Kevin? You got anything you want to add to this?
No, I think you two covered that, actually. Very well.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, there is one thing. Just a little pet peeve of mine, because I got called up on it myself. A doesn't equal A.
Am I getting it wrong?
No, it's A is A.
Oh, it is. Yeah. It is. A is A. I just watched those lectures today, so I would have remembered it correctly. A is A. Yes, A is A.
Some people just go, well, what's the difference? This is not a long enough show to go into, but there's a difference.
Yeah, I'm going to school. I'm going to college to get my economics. I get doing economics and stuff. But like, I can very easily be tempted to go that whole like philosophy route, because I want to be a professor. And the idea of being a professor who teaches objectivism fairly is very appealing to me. Like I'm gonna do the economic stuff and teach Austrian economics because there's not enough of those people. But the idea of being a philosophy professor and teaching Aquinas and Rand and Aristotle fairly, and not with this like Descartes, Hume, other stuff involved in there. Actually, legit philosophy, in my opinion. Then that's a very appealing idea and does sound fun. But Cody, you were going to university. You said, what were you going for? Just getting like an AA? Like I don't know what the European things are, but like, what were you going for?
I was doing psychology.
Oh.
2 years I called it quits because universities are just an absolute fucking black hole these days of actual knowledge of philosophy or anything. I had Marxist professors. They were it was terrible, and then politically they are far left. There was a 100% overlap between the Socialist Society at my university and the Student Association.
Wow.
They were all socialists, and I actually joined the Socialist Club for a year to out of curiosity and to try to actually have some debate there, so it's not a circle jerk. They tolerated me, but eventually, for my own sanity, I decided to just give up.
Yeah,
because
I feel that I'm doing everything online, and I did it's the English teacher who was a lefty type person. She made a mistake of saying, "Okay, everyone, you have to write a research paper, but you can pick whatever topic you want to pick." So naturally, I chose why FDR was the worst president, and that everything we hate about modern America for the New Deal. And so I went detail. I mean, I went through all of Rothbard's Great Depression. I went through the Tom Woods stuff. I mean, I had 3 pages of cites just for that. I didn't want her to say anything was untrue. I wanted to hit her hard with everything. She claimed I plagiarized it. She went into some saying and said, "You plagiarized things. I'm gonna have to knock points." I clicked it. The things that were plagiarized were the links to the sites. So I got docked points for citing things because it was copied. It's like, you bitch. I still passed because I did enough on a test he couldn't school with. But the fact that she didn't like what I said, so she docked me points for plagiarizing. And it's like, these are sites. It's like, well, you see that? That was copied from the Tom Woods website. It's like, yeah, it literally says TomWoods.com. Like, what is this? These people are monsters.
Yeah, I mean, I have no trouble believing that was just deliberately trying to screw you over because she didn't like what you said. I've over the last couple of years, I've just stopped believing that a lot of the people, like the lefties, the pro-lockdown, I have stopped believing that they're just misguided. They are actually fucking evil.
Yes, I've had to come to that realization this last year of dealing with people in colleges. Yes, they are evil,
and I hate them. I've stopped saying. I used to say I don't hate socialists. I hate socialism, and I think I can bring socialists over. No, I hate socialists. They are evil. They are morons. But they're morons and they're cowards, and they know exactly what they're doing. And
I had
one exception. I should add a lot of them don't want to be brought over. One exception is my sister, which I talked about the first time I was on, because she used to be radically left wing, the whole SJW thing, and I managed to over time just slowly bring her over, philosophically and politically, to much closer to me. I mean, she's an anarcho-capitalist like me. Philosophically, it took me a while, but I got her to finally accept that she has to put herself first. That she can only actually achieve anything if she works for her own good primarily, and works from there.
Yeah, we had a discussion post in one of my classes we had to do, and it was on free speech. And so I waited to do mine until the last day because I wanted to be able to respond in my discussion post to everyone else's post. Like I wanted mine to be in rejection of all that because I read through all of them. They were like, I don't think people should have the right to say things on public spaces because they could trigger those around them. And I deliberately called up by name, you're a fucking bitch, was my exact words. And I said, you're being a coward and your sensitivity to new ideas is going to inhibit my ability to learn new things. Don't leave your house if you don't want, like, your sensitivity does not impair my freedom. So shut up and deal with it. Yeah. These people are, I don't care about them anymore. I know this is like on my anyone who's listening to me, like, aren't you Christians who want to save their souls? I don't want to share heaven with these people. You think I want to share heaven with these people? I don't. If heaven's real, I don't want to share it. It's and I know it is a joke. I think you have to individual level. You have to deal with them personally, but on mass online, I don't care about these people. I don't want to talk to them, especially if you can't understand reality. If you can't, the depth of conversation you have to explain why reality exists is not worth my time. I could be reading Ayn Rand instead of explaining Ayn Rand. That's my viewpoint right now. So I could be learning Ayn Rand for people who actually want to know these ideas. My podcast. Then I can spend it on Twitter, spending 15 hours debating about why a sale actually exists. It's
waste of time. I mean, they don't start from an honest position, and they're probably never going to budge. It's like you said, right? They start with perception. How do we know this table's here? Why do we call it a table? The whole concept is arbitrary. The only appropriate response is table.
Yes,
it's there, and until you accept that,
the table is here.
Until you accept that, we are not going to get anywhere.
Mm-hmm. What is the one takeaway from Rand that if you could impart to people, you would want them to know? Like, if you could take anything Rand said, that's the one thing you can have people kind of like adopt and understand better. What is it you want people to accept?
Selfishness is good.
Your life is yours, yeah.
Your life is yours. I like that. Like, I really like that. I always love these like simple.
That's my summary.
It's a true simple summary, and we know it's a cliche, but like your life is yours and you only get one. That's a cliche. So make it count. And you don't want to get to the end of your life and think, "Well, I made other people happy," and you're miserable. You want to be happy. Exactly. My happiness is my own priority. I'm not going to make my happiness contingent on other beings. Let's go to let's do some recommendations here about Rand. Normally I cap it off around 30, but I'm having a lot of fun with this talking about Rand because most people when I talk about Rand are like, "Oh, she rejected anarchy, so I want to ignore her," or "Oh, she rejected God, so I want to ignore her." And so I have very few people I talk about Rand with, so I'm having fun talking about this. Let's talk about
probably
your own book.
Several hours.
Let's talk about your own book for a little bit, because he's great. I mean, he's one of my biggest inspirations for starting a podcast in the first place. Is your own book because he has a speech impediment, somewhat like his accent mixed with his speech impediment, like a little lisp. I have a lisp, and so seeing someone do all these lectures, like, okay, well, if he can do it, I can do it. And he got me reading. He's retweeted me a couple of times, which is always fun. It's always fun to get a retweet from your own book. I want to read his book. I have a signed. Hold on. I have a signed copy of Equal is Unfair that I want to read. I want to get through all of it, but I feel weird reading this one when I haven't finished reading all of Ayn Rand yet. Hold on. There we go. Very proud of that. Love it. Go. You watch a lot of your own book, or are you more just reading Ayn Rand?
Who's that to?
Goldie on the.
I don't want to. I don't want to go too deep into formulating an opinion on your own book. Just what I've seen of him, I haven't been a great fan of.
Mm.
But a big part of that reason is that I've seen him argue against just making a blanket argument against libertarianism, which I think is very misguided, and I think he makes some very poor arguments.
Did anybody watch his Lex Friedman podcast he did?
Yeah.
You watched it? I rewatched it today. What did you think of it? What did you think, Kevin? I thought it was great.
Yeah, I thought it was great. Very good.
Yeah.
I think Lex is a very good interviewer as well. So
yeah,
he allows people the time to speak and formulate their thoughts and get things out coherently, rather than these gotcha type interviewers who are just there for clicks, basically. Very good show.
Yeah. I really am a fan. You're wrong when it comes to political philosophy. I have my disagreements, but when it comes to actually breaking down politics of the day on a show, it's great. And when it comes to philosophy, he did a series on he did an episode on the 7 cardinal sins of the 7 deadly sins of the Catholic Church, and I was in agreement with him. You know, I think that people don't understand the Catholic view when it comes to the 7 deadly sins. The sins aren't in of themselves. The sins are emotions. Lust is an action, but like sloth, not sloth, greed, or anger or rage. These things are emotions, but no, it's an excess. Like Aquinas talked about this a lot. That no, anger is justified. It's right to be angry about unjust things. It's like, what do you do with the anger that can be bad? Are you going and murdering people? Well, then that's bad. Aquinas is very big on moderation. When it came to a lot of things, Aquinas was like, in moderation. Like a lot of Christians say you shouldn't ever drink alcohol. Aquinas was like, hey, you could have a few, just don't get blackout drunk. That was Aquinas' view. In moderation. And I think a lot of people don't get that view of the Catholic Church. They do look at it more of the Baptist way, Southern Baptist style, where it's just like, if you get angry, you're going to hell. And it's like, that's not the case. It's about what do you do with your anger. I would say he was very harsh on it, but I had no problem because he was harsh on when he talks about religion, he's harsh on the kind of religious people I don't like either. Like there's 2 kinds of religious people, and he's harsh on the kinds that I don't like. And so I have no problem with him attacking those kinds. It's the kind that are like the Bishop Barron and Aquinas types, who are actual reasonable, philosophically sound types that are. He's not even talking about them, so there's no really connection. But
I've got to read some Aquinas actually, but I want to work through Rand first.
Yeah, I highly recommend Aquinas. He has a bunch of books, but his what's the title? On law. He has a lot of stuff on when do Christians have to follow and obey the law? And his argument is, well, does the law contradict natural law? Or is the law reasonable? If the law is unreasonable, well, of course you don't have to follow unreasonable laws. Like he was very a lot of Catholics hate this about him, but he didn't think he should outlaw prostitution. His mind was like, hey, what's bad? People giving into sins they're always going to give into, or drawing a weapon on someone for committing a sin that you commit too. He was very against outlawing sins. He was very libertarian. And he was, when it came to economics, proto-Austrian. Like Rothbard talked about it a little bit. He was a proto-Austrian when it came to economics. And so he's a very fun read. I'm biased, though, because I'm Catholic. He's my patron saint, so I got a bit of a bias there. But yeah, the reading you can't go wrong reading Aristotle, Aquinas, and Rand. You can't go wrong.
I think I just heard thousands of religious demagogues screaming Romans 13. What do they mean?
Oh, absolutely. I'm going on. I'm in a debate on Twitter right now with a guy about Romans 13.
Yeah, I've seen a few of.
What's Romans 13?
Romans 13 is a go-to scripture. It was written by Paul, and it was about obeying the state. And what a lot of Christians take it to say, oh, you see, you have to obey the state because God or God ordained all state power. And the common response you make is, so God ordained Hitler. And sometimes the Christians Satanists literally say yes, because they don't believe in free will. They believe everything happened was part of God's plan. Those people are monsters, and I block them instantly. I don't want to get into types. What Paul was really talking about is tactical pacifism. It's like, hey, your goal is not to be if you're a Christian, your goal is to be to win souls for Jesus and live a moral life. What's the best way to do that? The best way to do that is not drawing swords against the Roman government every time they tax you. So just pay your taxes, live in peace, and ignore it. It was a very Curtis Yarvin Cleopatra kind of thing. Like the state's always going to be there. Just learn to accept it and live happily regardless of it. And that was his. It's not permitting the state, nor is it saying the state is immoral. It's saying it's going to be there. Accept it. That was his argument. And a lot of Christians, it's the go-to thing. People bring up and stuff, mainly because they think it's a resounding answer to Christian anarchism, but also because the German government, a lot of people know the German government forced the Catholic Church at gunpoint to say that justifies Hitler and justified the Holocaust, and so there was a lot of like evil priests in Germany who were at gunpoint forced to say, no, it's okay to kill the Jews, otherwise people wouldn't go along with it. So there's a lot of history and all that kind of stuff around Romans 13. But
thank you.
No problem. Let's talk about this pseudo-intellectual philosophers who try to sound smart by sounding like nothing. Kevin, you mentioned earlier academia and stuff, and you think it's a way to fix things that have things taught correctly in academia. How do you propose? Like, you want to like raise up a new class of people to go be teachers and kind of like replace the teachers, like the elites now that teach all this nonsense? You want to replace them with new teachers? Because I'm on favor of that. Yeah, I'm in full favor of that. Like Pareto circulation of the elites. I'm like, let's replace them with all good elites. Like I'm fully on board with that idea. That's what I'm doing. Are you trying to like empower people who already want to be teachers, or are you trying to empower students to take on teachers and replace them later down the line? Like, what's your strategy here?
I think the strategy is the same as the strategy already employed over the last 5 to 6 decades by the collectivists, by the socialists, by the communists. Is if once you've got philosophy, educate new people in that philosophy and teach them to teach that philosophy to others in academia. So the teachers, the professors, all that over time come towards your philosophy and away from what is now. And those people were teaching the younger children, and then the younger children go up with the correct ideas. It's the same process that's been used already, but with a different philosophy to be taught. They're just teaching, we know what they're teaching.
Nonsense.
Stuff. The individual doesn't count unless it's in some kind of group identity. What the government says, you just say yes. They're not about the individual. They're not about individual rights. They confuse what rights are. They think you've got a right to a house, a right to this, a right to that, and they don't understand what rights are. And you have a generation of children that come out going, oh, I've got a right to a house, I've got a right to a job, I've got a right to this. And they've just bastardized the idea of what rights are and what they're there for. And so the process is to follow exactly what they did, but with the better ideas and the better philosophy. And that will take time. That's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
And it won't be political. I mean, obviously I run a political party, but that isn't going to happen anytime soon. That's, it's mad to think that, next election we'll get elected and everything will be hunky-dory, because it's not going to happen. People just laugh at the moment.
Yeah. No, I think that's actually a great idea. Well, go ahead, Goldie. What you got?
I do think that if society can be saved, it'll be a long, gradual process of slowly convincing people of obviously the value of the individual, to value themselves, to think for themselves, and to grow it out from there. Because, I mean, even if next election a Libertarian Party wins full representation and begins to transition to, I don't know, let's keep Kevin happy, to transition to a minimal government, that's going to be a disaster, because people are still collectivist, people are still statist. You cannot just, people don't automatically thrive when free. They need the right ideas. They need to have good, non-contradictory philosophy to drive them, to back them up.
Yeah. One of the things that we talk about here, I've been talking about to people in the States, is you don't want to be a libertarian dictator. I know it's like a contradiction in terms, but like if people don't want freedom, you force it on them, they're gonna reject it, and the next thing comes around, they're gonna kick you out of office and go with someone way worse. It's gonna rebound. You have to get people taught, and I think the way to do it is podcasts, getting into academia. People are learning more online now. Like those objectivist videos are going up in views every week, and they are how old are they? You know, like this is the future. Is teaching online, teaching like I've been toying around with this idea of doing I have a VR headset, and you can set up these VR classrooms where people can log on, and you can VR teachers the chalkboard and everything. And I've toyed around with the idea of like doing basic Ayn Rand stuff, basic objectivist stuff, basic economic stuff, VR, and I can give people a supplemental classroom thing. I won't be a teacher, give me practice teaching, but also give people a outside school where they can learn things out, and they actually have a free exchange of ideas. They can actually talk. They're not worried about grades. They're not worried about getting canceled or being kicked out of class. It's all anonymous because it's all in VR. And so you could actually ask questions that want to feel dumb, and you could actually have an exchange of ideas. Like setting up a virtual counter school kind of thing. Like I'm really sorry about doing that stuff because there's ways to do it, and it's available. And I think we should do that. But
whatever it is that takes power away from the centralized state education, it should be done.
How I know it. Yeah, I know that in the States, a lot of these colleges are heavily subsidized and basically wings of the government at this point. How is the same thing in England? Same thing, kind of like subsidized and controlled. All UK.
Yeah,
that sucks.
Pretty much most places in the world. Universities, legally universities in the UK are actually charities, so that they don't have to pay tax.
Wait, hold on. What is this? The legally charities?
Yeah.
I mean,
they get massive grants from the government. The idea that they're independent is absolutely ridiculous. They are just state indoctrination camps. We just get brainwashed basically with whatever the elites want us to believe. Call it what you want. The collectivists, the cathedral, the
losers,
media corporate complex. I just call them assholes.
That's fair. What do you think it is though? Like I've been trying to figure out I get the political power motivation for these people to be smarmy, pseudo-intellectual people, when they're just like trying to say reality doesn't exist, or, we can't trust our senses. What is their reasoning behind this? Because I can't figure it out. Like I get the political power aspect to it. I get the power it gives them, but like, what is their motivation? Like, Kevin, what do you think? Do you think there's like some deeper motivation here? Like, why are these people stupid?
You're on about professors and
professors. Like, why do you think so many professors? Why do you think so many professors reject reality and teach pseudo-intellectual nonsense?
I haven't got a clue.
I can't figure it out either.
I can't identify any one thing that I could say, this is why they do it.
I think they want to reject responsibility for their own lives. I think that sums it up.
Yeah, but then you see the people living happy lives, or what they think are happy lives anyway. They're successful, they earn lots of money, they've got a nice house, a nice car, wife, a couple of kids, go on holiday 3 times a year, etc. And to them, they've got a good life. And their philosophy sucks. And you've got people like us sitting there going, their philosophy sucks. They're teaching it to everybody else who will then suck, yet they've got this life. And we're sitting there thinking, that shouldn't be the case. If their philosophy is that bad, why is their life appearing to be so good? Is that what and it seems to me there's a contradiction in what their philosophy is outwardly to what the philosophy is they're using inwardly to build their lives. So I think they're a contradiction in life, because they're applying reason and rationality and independence and integrity and everything else to their outside life and then their working life, they're just scum. And I think they've built a compartment in their mind where this is what I do in work, this is what I teach, and then outside, they don't use that to build their life. They use a more correct philosophy to build the life outside.
That carries over to a lot of. Go ahead, Gordy.
I noticed that everyone who says that we can't really say a table is a table still eats their dinner off a table.
They'll still sit at one. They won't put their plate in thin air and go.
That does carry over to the whole they compartmentalize what they're doing, because there are a lot of people who, when they're at work, like I know a guy who's when he's at work is on the ball. Like he's constantly thinking, he is trying to figure out his job, he's really using his brain. And the moment he's off of work, he is a machine. He goes home, he gets on his computer, he plays games, he goes home, goes back to work. He doesn't ever do it. He doesn't think about anything outside of work. His brain is basically shut off because he's not incentivized to use his brain outside of work. You think he would be, but he's not. Like, it's so weird to me. Like, maybe it's because we're different types of people here, but we want to use our brain all the time for work, for thinking, for philosophizing, for devising, figuring out solutions. You know, for how do I talk to that girl across the street? We want to use our brains all the time, and the incentive structure for people to just not use the incentive structure is definitely use their brains, but they're just rejecting it and not when they use it. Like, why? It's a scare responsibility. They don't want to. They can blame themselves for their own failure then when things don't go their way. Like, why do you think they want to not use their brains outside of work?
I don't care.
You know,
that's their problem.
That's it. I mean, yeah. I mean, he's not wrong. Again, he's not wrong.
I mean, the person you're talking about may be thinking, I work so hard all day long. This is my reward, to be a vegetable when I get home.
Mm.
Hey, if that's what they want to do, it's your own life to fuck up.
Yeah, I know a guy who is literally the embodiment of the second handle. Like, he is that type. Like, I've talked to his family and stuff. I've been with most of my life. And I asked him, what do you want to do to life? And he'll bring up, he's like, I've been told I should do this. That's his answer. I've been told I should do this. I talk with his family and friends and stuff, and they're like, well, he needs to go. And everyone has an idea of what he should do. And I've never heard him say what I want to do. Not once have I ever heard him say the words, I want to do this. He is the embodiment of second handle. And I'm like, oh, Ayn Rand would detest this guy. Like, Ayn Rand would really not like him. But I like him. He's a cool guy. I just want to see what, be himself and discover what he wants to do himself and not be a pawn of everybody else,
Not be a conduit.
Yeah.
Some people try to use others as a conduit for their own ideas.
Yeah.
For their own lives. Which
want to live vicariously through other people.
Which is just disgusting.
It really is.
Evil. It's like, it's just it just strikes me just how a few years ago it's not something I would ever do, but now I would just straight up tell someone who does that, you're evil. You're a piece of shit.
Yeah. I've used how many parents I wanted to say that to over my years of being at homeschool meetings. Because homeschool, I'm all in favor of homeschooling. I think it's great. There are a lot of homeschool parents who are the mother-bird, who won't let their kids go out of the nest. And that is one of the dangers of homeschooling, is you get a lot of these moms who just want more control over their kids, and that's why they're homeschooling. And when you see it, it's you can't unsee it. You see a mom and you're like, oh, that kid's not gonna end up in a good space, and they usually don't. Like, I've been out of high school for about several years now, and these people I know who are younger than me, by a grade or two, and I would recognize that mom for being the mother bird, like Mrs. Keating. And now that kid, I see where he's at. I'm like, that's why, And I wish I had the guts to talk to the mom at the time, if only in front of the son, to kind of point out to the son what's going on. But I was very, again, not my space, not my spot, not my job kind of thing. But looking back on it, I wish I did. I wish I could. I think it's one, it's fun now to call up people for the bullshit. But calling out someone's bullshit like that in front of the person that they're under control is helpful for the person who's not under control. If you can wake them up a little bit to that, they can maybe defend against it in the future. But okay, well, we've gone for an hour and 5 minutes. It's been a lot of fun. I love talking Rand. Everything went. Oh, it reminds me. I love Leo Tolstoy, and I absolutely love his book Anna Karenina. Has anyone here read that?
No.
Anna Karenina.
No.
No.
Okay. Ayn Rand hated it. It was her least favorite book. Like up to his Kant. Like she detested the book, and she hated the main character because he was a female character who lived only for other people, and when things don't go away, she basically just dies. Like it's what's got me thinking. I'm sure there's a lot of ways you can read literature, and then like there's ways to like dissect literature. There's the postmodernist, the modernist, the classical view of reading literature. Does anyone know if there's like people out there who do objectivist readings of literature, where they read other books and like objectivist frameworks? Because if you know those people, I want to find them, get on a podcast, because that sounds fun.
I think the Ayn Rand Institute does some literature reviews from an objectivist perspective.
Okay,
but I'm not absolutely certain because I've never done a deep dive into that.
Because like you read Anna Karenina, and it's like, oh, this is exactly someone Ayn Rand would hate. But this book, if anyone's Karenina, this book, The Death of Ivan Ilyich, this is basically, in my opinion, an objectivist book. Like the main guy lives his life solely for other people. At one point, when he's laying in bed dying, his line is, well, I always did what I was supposed to do. I went to the right school. I got the right wife. I got the good house. And it literally is, I did what I was supposed to do. I can die easy. And then it's, what if I didn't? And the next chapter is about him trying to figure out what if he didn't do the right thing. This is an objectivist horror story, pretty much. And I would love to read it. I'd love to do a book club episode on it, like an objectivist reading of Leo Tolstoy's Death of Ivan Ilyich, because it's an incredible book. And literature readings through an objectivist standpoint would be a lot of fun. I just gotta find people that want to do it and who are well versed enough in objectivism to bring up all the points about it, you know? Okay, well, everyone go ahead and plug your stuff. Where can people find you guys at?
Kevin, you want to go first?
Yeah, on Twitter at Kevin Bruns, KEVIN BRUNS, or at UK Liberty Party.
UK Liberty Party. Okay. Go with me. Where can people get you at?
I finally changed my at to something I can remember.
It's really catchy.
At GoldGuy79AU.
79AU. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, guys, okay. Well, it's been another episode of the Catholic Libertarian Book Club podcast. Today we talked about Ayn Rand, objectivism, and why so many people are stupid and terrible. And that's been it's been a lot of fun. If you guys ever want to come on again and talk about more Rand, just hit me up. I would love to do more live stream. We'll do a book club maybe on a specific book next time. You know, just hit me up. I would happily have you guys both on again for like a book club episode talking about specific Ayn Rand books.
Thank you.
And so
I would absolutely be up for that. So.
Sounds good. Well, everybody, go read Miss Rand. And remember, selflessness is a virtue. Hold on, I had a cool outro and then I couldn't find it. Dang it.